50 experts couldn't save the Korean Mafia boss until the Black Maid came and solved it in 1 minute. The conference room was full of men in $5,000 suits, and every single one of them was failing. Naomi Okafor pushed her cleaning cart past the glass walls, trying to be invisible. It was 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, and the emergency meeting had been going for 6 hours. She could see the exhaustion on their faces, the desperation. Someone was stealing from Kang Ji-woon. $50 million had vanished from his empire in the past 3 months, and his elite financial team couldn't figure out how. Naomi kept her head down and kept moving. This wasn't her world. She was just the night janitor, the invisible woman who cleaned up after the powerful people made their messes. But as she passed the conference room, her eyes caught on the financial spreadsheets projected on the screen, and she saw it. The pattern that 12 Harvard MBAs and forensic accountants had missed, clear as day, right there in the subsidiary transfers. Naomi stopped walking. She shouldn't say anything. She was nobody. Just the cleaning lady. They wouldn't listen to her anyway. But $50 million. Someone was stealing $50 million, and she could see exactly how they were doing it. Oh my God, her hand was knocking on the glass door before her brain could stop it. 12 heads turned to stare at her. 12 expressions of annoyance at being interrupted by the help. And one pair of dark, intense eyes that made Naomi's breath catch. Kang Ji-woon sat at the head of the table, and even exhausted and furious, he was the most terrifying man Naomi had ever seen. Korean, probably early 30s, with sharp aristocratic features and an expression that could freeze blood. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than Naomi made in a year, and when he looked at her, she felt like he could see straight through to her soul. Yes? His voice was deep, accented, dangerously quiet. Naomi's mouth went dry. I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Kang. I noticed something. On your spreadsheet. I think I know where the money's going. The room erupted in condescending laughter. The janitor thinks she can solve what we can't? One of the suits, a white man with slicked back hair, sneered. That's adorable. Go back to mopping, sweetheart. But Ji-woon held up one hand, and the room went silent. Show me, he said to Naomi. Naomi's hands were shaking as she entered the conference room. 12 pairs of eyes watched her, most hostile, 1 or 2 curious, and Ji-woon's unreadable. She walked to the screen showing the financial data, very aware that she was in her janitor's uniform, cheap polyester pants and a company polo, standing in front of men who wouldn't normally look at her twice. Here, Naomi pointed to a series of transfers. You're looking at the main accounts, but you're missing the subsidiary transfers that happen 8 hours later. See? Every time. There's a withdrawal from the primary accounts. There's a corresponding deposit to this shell company, Horizon Imports. But then, 8 hours later, that same amount gets transferred to another subsidiary under a different name. You're losing the thread because the money splits into 5 different accounts after the second transfer. But if you track them all, she grabbed a marker and started writing on the whiteboard, numbers flowing from her like water. They all eventually funnel into this account. Park Financial Holdings, that's where your $50 million went. The room was dead silent. Naomi turned around to find every single man staring at her, like she'd grown a second head. How did you? The slicked-hair analyst started. I have a degree in forensic accounting from Howard, Naomi said quietly. I haven't been able to use it in a while. Ji-woon stood up, slowly. His eyes never left Naomi's face. Park Financial Holdings, he said, his voice deadly quiet. Who owns it? One of the analysts frantically typed on his laptop. Oh God, it's registered to Park Sungmin. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. My cousin, Ji-woon said. My own cousin has been stealing from me." He looked at Naomi, and something in his expression shifted. Not quite a smile. Something more dangerous. "What's your name?" "Naomi Okafor, sir." "Naomi?" He said it slowly, like he was testing how it felt in his mouth, like he was memorizing it. "How long have you been cleaning my building?" 2 years, sir." "And you have a background in finance?" "I have a degree in forensic accounting from Howard University. I was working on my master's when—" She stopped. She didn't need to tell him her life story. "When what?" Naomi met his eyes. "When my sister got sick, and I had to drop out to take care of her." Something flickered in Ji-woon's expression. Understanding? Sympathy? It was gone too fast for Naomi to read. "Everyone out," Ji-woon said, still, looking at Naomi. "Except Ms. Okafor." The analysts filed out quickly, shooting Naomi looks that ranged from hostile to curious. Bradley Chen looked like he wanted to say something, but thought better of it when Ji-woon's eyes flicked to him. When the door closed, leaving them alone in the conference room, Ji-woon gestured to a chair. "Sit. Please." Naomi sat, her heart pounding. She was alone with Kang Ji-woon, the man whose reputation made grown men nervous, whose business empire supposedly extended into very dark places. "Tell me about your sister," Ji-woon said. That wasn't what Naomi had expected. "Sir? Your sister. The one you dropped out of school for. Tell me about her." So Naomi did. Told him about Zara, about the lupus diagnosis that had come out of nowhere when Zara was just 20, about the medical bills that had buried them, about working 3 jobs trying to keep up with the costs while watching her baby sister suffer. Ji-woon listened without interrupting. And when she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "You just saved me $50 million, he said finally. "In 60 seconds. What my entire team couldn't do in 6 hours, you did in less than a minute. Do you understand how valuable that makes you?" Naomi's mouth went dry. "I just saw the pattern." "You saw what trained experts missed, because you're brilliant." Ji-woon leaned forward, his intense eyes locked on hers. "I'm going to offer you a job, Naomi Okafor. A real job. Financial analyst in my organization. Starting salary of $200,000 a year. Full benefits including health insurance that will cover your sister's treatments completely. You'll work directly with me on sensitive financial matters. You'll have your own office, your own team eventually." Naomi couldn't breathe. $200,000. That was more than she made in 3 years of cleaning. "Mr. Kang, that's incredibly generous, but I'm just you're not just anything. You're exceptional, and I value exceptional people." His eyes held hers, and Naomi felt pinned by the intensity of his gaze. "But you need to understand what you'd be getting into. I don't run a normal business, Naomi. My organization operates in gray areas. Some of what you'd see, some of what you'd be part of, isn't exactly legal. I won't lie to you about that. I won't hide what I am." Naomi's blood ran cold. She'd heard rumors about Kang Ji-woon, whispers that his import-export business was a front for something darker. Korean Mafia connections, money laundering, things that happened in shadows. "I'm offering you a choice," Ji-woon continued. "You can go back to your cleaning job. I'll give you a generous bonus for what you found tonight, enough to help with your sister's bills for a few months, and we never speak of this again. Or you can take the job, knowing what it means, and change your life completely." Naomi thought about Zara, about the medical bills stacking up, about the creditors calling every day, about her own dreams of using her degree that she'd buried, because survival mattered more than ambition. "If I say yes," she said slowly, "I want your word that my sister stays safe, that she's never involved in whatever the dangerous parts of your business are. You have my word. Your sister will be protected. Always." Naomi looked into his dark eyes, and saw something there. Truth. Dangerous, complicated truth. But truth, nonetheless. Then yes, I accept. Ji-woon's smile was sharp and satisfied. He stood and extended his hand. Welcome to my world, Naomi Okafor. I think you're going to do extraordinary things. When Naomi shook his hand, she felt the calluses on his palm. This was a man who'd worked for what he had, despite the expensive suits. A man who knew violence and struggle, despite the polished exterior. And when he held her hand just a moment longer than necessary, something electric passed between them. The first month was brutal. Naomi's new office was beautiful. Glass walls, expensive desk, a view of Chicago that took her breath away. But the work was intense. Ji-woon had her analyzing financial records for all his businesses, the legitimate ones and the ones that existed only on paper. She tracked money moving through dozens of shell companies, identified vulnerabilities in his networks, and created systems to prevent future theft. She also quickly realized that Ji-woon's empire was exactly what she'd suspected. Money moved from legitimate businesses into illegal operations, investments in things that made her stomach turn, connections to violence and crime that happened just outside her line of sight. But Ji-woon kept his word. She was never asked to do anything directly illegal, never put in danger, never involved in the violence, and he was always there. Naomi would work late, force of habit from her cleaning days, and Ji-woon would be there too, in his office down the hall. Sometimes he'd come to check on her, bringing coffee that he'd made himself because his assistant had gone home hours ago. "You don't have to work this hard," he said one night, setting a cup on her desk. "I'm paying you enough that you don't need to kill yourself." "Old habits," Naomi admitted, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. "I've been working 3 jobs for 2 years, 18-hour days. I don't know how to stop." Ji-woon leaned against her desk, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine with hints of cedar. "How is Zara? The new insurance has been processing her claims." "Better than I ever dreamed. She started a new treatment last week that we could never have afforded before. Her doctors are actually optimistic for the first time in 2 years." Naomi felt tears burn her eyes. "I can't thank you enough for that. You've given me my sister back. You earned it. By being brilliant." Ji-woon's dark eyes studied her face. "But you look exhausted, Naomi. When was the last time you slept more than 4 hours?" "I don't remember," she admitted. "Go home. That's an order from your boss." His lips quirked in a small smile. "Zara needs you healthy, and so do I. You're no good to me if you work yourself to death." "Are you always this concerned about your employees' sleep schedules?" "No." Ji-woon's expression turned serious. "Just the exceptional ones." There was something in the way he looked at her that made Naomi's heart race, something that went beyond professional concern. 2 weeks later, Ji-woon invited her to a business dinner. "I need you there to analyze a potential acquisition," he explained. "Korean restaurant downtown, very private. The owner wants to sell, but I suspect the books are cooked. I need your eyes on the numbers." Naomi wore her best dress, which wasn't saying much, and met Ji-woon at the restaurant. It was small, exclusive, the kind of place that didn't have prices on the menu. But what she wasn't prepared for was meeting Ji-woon's inner circle. 3 Korean men were already seated when they arrived. They stood immediately when Ji-woon entered, bowing with obvious respect. "Naomi, meet my brothers," Ji-woon said in English. "Not blood brothers, but the men I trust most in this world." The first was Lee Tae-yang, head of security, built like a tank, with scars visible on his knuckles and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The second was Kim Jae-sung, operations manager, quiet and analytical, watching Naomi with obvious curiosity. The third was Hwang Min-jun, Ji-woon's financial officer, who looked openly hostile. you're replacing me with the cleaning lady," Minjun said in Korean. Naomi understood. She'd learned Korean in college, though she'd never mentioned it. "I'm not replacing you," Ji-woon replied in Korean, his voice hard. "I'm expanding the team, and you'll treat Ms. Okafor with respect, or you'll find yourself looking for new employment." Minjun's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Throughout dinner, Naomi analyzed the restaurant's books while the men talked business in Korean, occasionally switching to English to include her. She caught Ji-woon watching her several times, something warm in his eyes, when she'd make a note or ask a pointed question. "The books are definitely cooked," Naomi said finally, sliding her analysis across to Ji-woon. "Revenue is inflated by about 30%. He's reporting sales that never happened, probably to inflate the selling price. If you pay his asking price, you'll overpay by about 2 million. Ji-woon smiled, genuine and pleased. "This is why I hired you." He negotiated the owner down to a fair price, using Naomi's analysis as leverage, and when they left the restaurant, he walked her to her car. "You handled yourself well tonight," Ji-woon said. "My brothers can be intimidating. They don't trust me. Not yet. But they will. You just saved me $2 million in one dinner. That kind of value speaks for itself." He paused. "Plus, they saw how I look at you. That makes them protective." Naomi's heart skipped. "How do you look at me?" Ji-woon stepped closer, close enough that Naomi had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Like you're the most interesting person I've met in a decade. Like I want to know everything about you. Like I'm fighting very hard not to cross professional lines because you work for me and I don't want to make you uncomfortable." Naomi's breath caught. "What if I'm not uncomfortable? Then we're both in trouble." But Ji-woon smiled when he said it. "Go home, Naomi. Get some sleep. We'll talk about this when you're not exhausted, and I'm not your boss late at night in a dark parking lot." But he didn't step back, and neither did she. "One question," Naomi said. "Your tattoos. I've seen the edges. What are they?" Ji-woon's expression shifted to something vulnerable. Slowly, he rolled up his sleeve to show her his forearm. Elaborate Korean dragons wound up his arm in black and gray ink, mixed with geometric patterns and what looked like Korean characters. "My history," he said quietly. "Where I come from. The things I've survived. The people I've lost." His finger traced one of the characters. "This one is my father's name. He died when I was 16, killed by a rival organization. That's when I took over the family business. You were just a kid." "I grew up fast." Ji-woon rolled his sleeve back down. "The tattoos remind me who I am, where I came from. They keep me honest about what I'm capable of." Naomi reached out before she could stop herself, touching his arm where the tattoo was hidden beneath expensive fabric. "Thank you for showing me." Ji-woon's hand covered hers. "Thank you for asking. Most people are too afraid to ask me anything personal." "I'm not most people." "No," Ji-woon agreed, his eyes intense in the parking lot lights. "You're definitely not." 3 months in, Naomi discovered the real danger. She was reviewing acquisition records late one Thursday night when she found it. Another pattern. Subtle. Hidden in layers of legitimate transactions. But it was there, glaring at her from the screen. Someone was siphoning money again. Not 50 million this time. Just 2 million. Small enough to miss if you weren't looking. But definitely there. Naomi's hands were shaking as she pulled all the records, traced every transfer, followed every thread through shell companies and subsidiaries, and found a name that made her blood run cold. Choi Min-seok, Ji-woon's second in command, his most trusted lieutenant, the man who'd been at Ji-woon's side for a decade. Naomi sat frozen at her desk, staring at the evidence. This wasn't like Park Sung-min, a distant cousin looking for easy money. This was betrayal from someone in Ji-woon's inner circle. Someone who sat in on strategy meetings. Someone who knew where all the bodies were buried, literally and figuratively. Someone who would know that Naomi had discovered his theft. Someone who might want to eliminate that threat. Her office suddenly felt very exposed. Glass walls on 3 sides. Anyone could see her. Anyone could know what she'd found. Naomi grabbed her files and headed straight to Ji-woon's office. His assistant had left for the day. It was past midnight, so she knocked directly on his door. "Come in." Ji-woon was on the phone, speaking in rapid Korean. When he saw Naomi's face, he immediately ended the call. "What's wrong?" Naomi closed the door behind her and locked it. "I found another leak. It's Min Seok. He's been stealing for at least 6 months. 2 million so far, maybe more if I dig deeper. And Ji-woon," her voice dropped to a whisper, "if he knows I found this, I might be in danger." Ji-woon's expression went absolutely cold, the kind of cold that reminded Naomi exactly who she was working for. This wasn't the man who brought her coffee at 2 a.m. This was the other Ji-woon, the dangerous one. "Show me everything." Naomi spread the files on his desk, showed him every transfer, every hidden account, every clever bit of misdirection. Watched his jaw tighten with barely controlled rage. "He's been stealing from me while standing at my right hand," Ji-woon said, his voice deadly quiet. Planning to fund his own operation, I assume. Setting himself up to challenge me. Fool. He pulled out his phone and made a call in Korean. Naomi understood enough to know he was calling in his security team, putting people on Min Seok's location, preparing for something. When he hung up, he looked at Naomi. "You're right to be concerned. Min Seok is dangerous. He has his own loyal men, connections outside my organization. If he suspects you've discovered his theft, he might try to eliminate you before I can move against him." Naomi's heart was pounding. Should I go somewhere? Hide? I can take Zara and... No. Ji-woon stood, walked around the desk, and gently took her shoulders. "You're staying where I can protect you. I'm moving you and Zara into a secure apartment in my building, the penthouse level. Bodyguards will be assigned to you 24 hours. You don't go anywhere without them. Understood?" "That seems extreme, Naomi." Ji-woon's hands tightened slightly on her shoulders. His dark eyes were intense, burning with something beyond just professional concern. "I told you I would protect you. I meant it. Let me do that. Please." Looking into his eyes, seeing the genuine fear for her safety there, Naomi nodded. "Okay. Good." Ji-woon's hands lingered on her shoulders for a moment longer than necessary, his thumbs brushing against her collarbones through her blouse. "I'll have someone take you home to pack. Bring Zara tonight. I want both of you safe before Min Seok realizes what's happening." The secure apartment was actually a penthouse, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking all of Chicago, expensive furniture that looked like it belonged in a magazine. 3 bedrooms, one for Naomi, one for Zara, and a guest room. A kitchen bigger than Naomi's entire old apartment. Marble bathrooms, art on the walls that was probably worth more than most people's houses. Zara was speechless. "This is insane," her sister breathed, spinning in the living room. At 22, Zara looked younger, small and delicate from years of illness, her dark skin luminous against the white furniture, her natural hair in beautiful twists. "You're telling me your boss is just letting us stay here? For free?" "It's complicated," Naomi said, not wanting to scare Zara with talk of theft and danger and betrayal. "There's a work situation. He wants to make sure we're safe." "A work situation that requires a penthouse and bodyguards?" Zara's eyes were wide. "Naomi, what kind of business does this man really run?" "The kind I try not to think too hard about," Naomi admitted. "But Zara, he's been good to us. The insurance, your treatments. He's kept every promise he's made. Zara studied her sister's face. You, like him. Really like him. What? No. He's my boss. Naomi. I'm sick, not blind. The way your face changes when you talk about him. The way you're blushing right now. That's not boss and employee. That's something else. Naomi's face burned. It's complicated. He's not exactly a good man, Zara. His business. I know what his business probably is. I watch the news. I'm not stupid. Zara's expression turned serious. But he's been nothing but kind to us. He's protecting us. He got me health care I could never afford. And he looks at you like you hung the moon. Maybe he's not a good man by society's standards. But he's good to you. Sometimes that's what matters more. Living in Ji-woon's building meant seeing more of him. He'd stop by the penthouse to check on them every evening, bring Zara art supplies when he learned about her painting, have dinner with them sometimes. Expensive takeout from restaurants Naomi had only read about, served on fine china in the penthouse dining room. And Naomi started to see a different side of him. The way he was gentle with Zara, asking about her art, and listening to her ramble about color theory and brush techniques with genuine interest. The way he'd smile, really smile, when Zara showed him her latest painting, a landscape of the Chicago skyline from their window. The way he'd catch Naomi's eye across the table, and something would pass between them that made her stomach flip. One night, 2 weeks into living there, Ji-woon stayed late after dinner. Zara had gone to bed early, exhausted from her treatment. Naomi and Ji-woon sat on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Min-seok has gone into hiding, Ji-woon said quietly. He knows I'm coming for him. But he'll surface eventually. They always do. Are you going to kill him? Ji-woon was quiet for a moment. I'm going to give him a choice. Leave the city, leave the country, disappear, and never come back. Or face the consequences of stealing from me and putting you in danger. Most men choose to run. And if he doesn't, then I'll do what needs to be done. Ji-woon turned to look at her. Does that scare you, knowing what I'm capable of? Naomi should say yes, should be terrified. But looking at this man who'd protected her and her sister, who'd given them a safe place to live, who looked at her like she mattered. No, she said honestly. It should. But it doesn't. Is that wrong? I don't know. Ji-woon's hand found hers on the balcony railing. But I'm glad you're not afraid of me. They sat in comfortable silence, hands touching, the city sprawling below them. Tell me about your father, Naomi said. The tattoo. You said he died when you were 16. Ji-woon was quiet for so long, Naomi thought he wouldn't answer. Then, he was a good man in a bad business. Tried to keep the violence minimal, protect the innocent. But in this world, being good gets you killed. His hand tightened on hers. I watched him die. Couldn't stop it. I was just a kid. And I vowed that day that I'd be stronger, harder, that I'd never be vulnerable like that again. Is that why you keep people at a distance? Yes. Caring about people is a weakness in my world. It gives your enemies leverage. He turned to face her fully. But then you walked into my conference room and showed up 12 Harvard MBAs in 60 seconds. And you've been breaking down my walls ever since. Naomi's heart was racing. Ji-woon, I'm falling in love with you, he said. I've been falling in love with you since that night. I know I shouldn't. I know it's dangerous for you. I know it makes you a target. But I can't help it. He stopped, searching for words. You're everything I didn't know I needed. Naomi should pull away, should say this was a bad idea, should protect herself. Instead, she leaned in and kissed him. Ji-woon made a sound low in his throat and pulled her close, kissing her back with an intensity that made her knees weak. His hands framed her face like she was something precious, and when they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "I'm falling in love with you too," Naomi whispered, "even though I know I shouldn't. Even though you're my boss and a crime lord, and this is insane, but I can't help it either. If we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. You'll be mine, truly mine, in my world, with all the danger that brings. Are you sure?" "I'm sure." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Naomi kissed him back, wrapping her arms around his neck and letting herself fall completely into this dangerous, impossible love. The next 4 months were the most intense of Naomi's life. Dating Ji-woon meant living fully in his world, security everywhere she went. Dinners with dangerous men who treated Ji-woon like a king and looked at Naomi with curiosity and respect. Watching him negotiate deals that made her stomach turn while knowing she loved him anyway. But it also meant waking up in his arms in the penthouse master bedroom. Breakfast on the balcony while the city woke up below them. Watching him be gentle with Zara, helping her set up an art show for her paintings. Seeing him slowly start to transition his businesses away from the illegal and toward the legitimate. "You're changing me," he said one morning as they lay in bed, sunlight streaming through the windows. "Making me want to build an empire that doesn't require violence to maintain." "You're changing me too," Naomi admitted, tracing the dragon tattoo on his chest. "Making me braver, more confident, helping me see my own worth." Zara got healthier. The treatments were working miracles. She was in remission, gaining weight, getting color back in her cheeks. She started online art classes at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and she adored Ji-woon, who'd somehow become the protective older brother she'd never had. Everything was perfect, until Min-seok came back. It happened fast. Naomi was leaving Zara's doctor's appointment. Incredible news. Her lupus was in full remission when a van pulled up to the curb. 3 men grabbed her before she could scream, threw her inside. One of them hit her hard across the face, and everything went dark. When she woke up, she was tied to a chair in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Her head throbbed. Her cheek felt like it was on fire. Blood crusted on her lip. Min-seok stood in front of her, and his smile made her blood run cold. "Hello, Ms. Okafor. I believe we have some things to discuss." They wanted information, financial records, passwords to Ji-woon's accounts, details about his operations that would let Min-seok destroy him from the inside, leverage to blackmail him, names of contacts and associates. Naomi refused. Min-seok hit her. Hard. Her lips split open completely. Blood ran down her chin, dripped onto her shirt. "Tell me what I want to know and this stops. Keep protecting him and it gets much worse." No. Another hit. Her cheek this time. She felt something crack, tasted copper. Her vision blurred. "Ji-woon will come for me," Naomi said through bloody teeth. "And when he does, you're dead. Let him come. I have 50 men here. What's he going to do?" Min-seok didn't know Ji-woon like Naomi did. What Ji-woon did was arrive like the wrath of God. Naomi heard it first. Gunfire, shouting in Korean, the sounds of violence getting closer and closer. Min-seok's men scrambling, their confidence evaporating as whatever was coming tore through them. Then the door to her room exploded inward, literally exploded, blown off its hinges. And Ji-woon was there. He looked like death itself, covered in blood, not his own, holding a gun in one hand, a knife in the other. His expensive suit was ruined. His face was a mask of cold fury, and his dark eyes, when they landed on Naomi's beaten face, went absolutely feral. "Get away from her," he said to Min-seok. His voice was deadly quiet, calm, which somehow made it more terrifying. "Now!" Min-seok grabbed Naomi, held a knife to her throat. "One more step and I kill her. Drop your weapons or she dies." Ji-woon smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Naomi had ever seen. No warmth, no humanity, just cold calculation. You won't. Because you need her alive to bargain with. But I don't need you alive at all. In fact, he raised his gun. I prefer you dead. He shot Min-seok in the shoulder. Perfect aim. The knife clattered to the floor. Before Min-seok could react, Ji-woon was across the room. The fight was brutal and short. Within seconds, Min-seok was on the ground, Ji-woon's knee on his chest, Ji-woon's hands around his throat. "You stole from me," Ji-woon said, his voice still that terrifying calm. "You betrayed me. And worst of all, you touched what's mine." "Please," Min-seok gasped. "There is no please. There is only consequence." The snap of Min-seok's neck was loud in the quiet room. Then Ji-woon was at Naomi's side, cutting her bonds with gentle hands that shook slightly, pulling her into his arms. "I've got you. You're safe. I've got you." Naomi collapsed against him, shaking. "How did you find me?" "I will always find you. Always." Ji-woon kissed her forehead, her cheeks, carefully avoiding her split lip. "God, Naomi, when I realized you were gone, when I saw the security footage of them taking you." I didn't tell him anything. He wanted information about you, about your operations. I didn't give him anything. Ji-woon pulled back to look at her, something raw and vulnerable in his dark eyes. "You were tortured and you protected me? I love you. Of course I protected you." Ji-woon kissed her then, carefully, mindfully of her injuries, but deep and desperate. "I love you. So much. Let's get you out of here." He carried her out of the warehouse, through the carnage of his rescue, to a waiting car where a doctor was already standing by. Recovery was slow. The physical, wounds healed. The split lip, the cracked cheekbone, the bruises that turned spectacular shades of purple and green before fading. But the nightmares took longer. Naomi would wake up gasping, back in that warehouse, Min-seok's fist coming toward her face. And Ji-woon would be there every time, pulling her close, whispering in Korean and English that she was safe, that he had her, that nothing would ever hurt her again. "I'm leaving the life," he told her one night as she lay in his arms, 3 weeks after the rescue. "Completely. I've been working on it for months, selling off the illegal operations to people I trust to run them cleanly, converting everything to legitimate businesses. It'll take another year, maybe 2. But I'm doing it. For you. For us. For the future I want to build with you." Naomi felt tears burn her eyes. "You're doing that for me. I'm doing it for us. Because I want to marry you, Naomi. I want children with you. I want to build a life that our children can be proud of. And I can't do that while running a criminal empire." He tilted her face up to look at him. "I want to be worthy of you." "You already are." "No, but I will be." He kissed her softly. "Would you marry me? Let me spend the rest of my life making you happy. Let me give you and Zara everything you deserve. Let me be the man you make me want to be." Naomi was crying and laughing and nodding all at once. "Yes, yes, of course, yes." Ji-woon pulled out a ring from the nightstand. He'd been carrying it, waiting for the right moment. Slipped it onto her finger, a stunning diamond that caught the light and sparkled like stars. "I love you," he whispered. "My brilliant, brave, extraordinary wife-to-be." "I love you too," Naomi whispered back. "My dangerous, complicated, surprisingly sweet husband-to-be." 1 year later, the wedding was beautiful, small and intimate in the penthouse, overlooking the city where their story had started. Zara was the maid of honor, healthy and radiant, and crying happy tears through the entire ceremony. Ji-woon's inner circle attended, Lee Tae-yang, Kim Jae-sung, and even Hwang Min-jun, who'd become one of Naomi's closest allies. Ji-woon's mother flew in from Seoul, and cried happy tears the entire time, pulling Naomi into a tight hug and whispering in Korean that she'd always wanted a daughter. And Naomi, in a white dress, marrying the man who'd seen her brilliance when she was invisible to everyone else, felt like the luckiest woman alive. "I love you," Ji-woon whispered as they danced, the city lights twinkling below them. "My brilliant wife." "I love you too," Naomi whispered back. "My reformed crime lord." Ji-woon laughed, genuine and free, and spun her around. 6 months after the wedding, they opened a foundation, the Okafor Kang Foundation for Educational Excellence. Scholarships for brilliant kids from difficult backgrounds. Kids like Naomi had been. Kids who just needed someone to see their potential and give them a chance. They funded full rides to college, paid for graduate degrees, created mentorship programs. And Naomi, the former janitor who'd solved what 12 Harvard MBAs couldn't, personally reviewed every application, looking for that spark of brilliance hiding in unlikely places. And Ji-woon, the former crime lord, transitioned his entire empire to legitimacy. It took 2 years, but he did it. Built something legal and lasting and good. All because a janitor had knocked on a conference room door one night at 3 a.m. All because a terrifying man had seen her brilliance and fallen in love. All because sometimes the most extraordinary things start in the most ordinary ways. The end. Sometimes love is a mafia boss who sees what no one else does. Sometimes the best life starts with being brave enough to knock on a door and show the world what you're made of. If you loved this story, smash that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Have you ever taken a risk that changed everything? Thank you for watching, besties, and I'll see you in the next one.